called y'all here together tonight to hear a story, the New Mexico story. And it's a fascinating page of the history of this land and its people. Now, this tale does not begin here, where we sit tonight, but far away thousands of miles to the north and to the west. It begins with the ancient Indians, tribes of an almost forgotten past, wanderers who were destined to eventually settle here in what is now the American Southwest.
Hello, my name is Akuma. I am a Pueblo Indian. The tale I tell is an ancient one. It begins in an Asian land, when the ancestors of my people journeyed south in wandering bands. For centuries they were hunters. Their destiny was to roam, until they found this land, in which became our home. They found it here in the American Southwest, and a new civilization was born. For the Great Spirit in his great wisdom gave my people the gift of corn. They gave up unplanted crops. The corn grew like a tide of gold, and they knew it was their home, the ones they sought in the legends of old. They tilled the crops, they built their homes, and they wove baskets year by year, and they were known as the Pueblos, for their homes in the cliffs were so brown and sheer. The seasons have flown, they have flown by, and the centuries have passed. The wheel of time keeps spinning around and around. My people thought it would never end. A home forever they had found. But one year disaster struck. The hot winds blew from the south. The hills, the valleys so green and lush, felt the parching breath of drought. For 24 anxious years, we planted our crops and watched them die. For 24 thirsty years, we waited for rain to fall from the sky. The springs have dried up, the grass is gone, and so we must leave our homes. We must leave our Pueblo homes and journey south to the Rio Grande.
Now that was around the year 1300, still more than 300 years, long before the first colonists arrived from Jamestown, from Great Britain. The Indians found what they were looking for, water, near the Rio Grande. And we're still living there several hundred years later, around 1590, when a new culture discovered the Southwest. This culture was spearheaded by the Spanish explorers, who sailed the Gulf of Mexico in search of gold and riches to be found in the New World.
My name is Arnigo Montoya. Captain of the troops of General Coronado and I came with Coronado in search of wealth and gold. He sought 7 cities where the streets were paved with gold. I brought no wife, no woman, no dark-eyed maid. But as my one companion, I trusted Spanish blade. We massacred the Indians. Too sad for history's page. We bloodied from our battles, spoilers of the age. Crows flew overhead and cawed their raucous serenade. As I marched with proud conquerors, and my trusted Spanish blade. Then the Indians revolted, threw off the bonds of Spain. The Spanish blood flowed darkly across the embattled plain. They slaughtered priests and soldiers. Few survived the raid. So I made my way to Mexico with my trusty Spanish blade. When my journey here is finished, when it's time for me to go, bury me on a mountain, this land of Mexico. But shed no tear for me, for I chose the life I made. Let my tombstone be from this. I trust the Spanish way.
After a series of bloody Indian battles forced the Spanish from this foreign and frightening land of New Mexico, the Indians had the land to themselves for another 12 to 15 years, until a different culture discovered the area. The American frontiersman, who soon turned his eyes westward, pulling up stakes and headed toward the setting sun. Now the first group to venture west were the famed mountaineers. These were a group of rugged adventurers and freedom-loving individualists.
Excuse me. Hi there. Well, can everybody hear me? Real good? Well, all right. My name is Long Tom McConnell. Came west in 1824 to be a mountaineer. Many others just like me, old Jed and Jake and Gabe and I think Antone, they're seeking fortune in the forest, a breed of wild mountain cat. But it wasn't really mountain cat, it was beaver. That's right. Whew. There was the runaways and the drunkards, some good folk too. They were seeking for a little bit of fortune, but didn't find much on where the skies were blue. Oh, man. Is it hot or is it just me? I tell you. Well, let me see. Well, many people have heard us say, I'd rather waltz with the sea bear than live my life any other way. Oh, we'd wander the hills and the valleys, wherever there flowed a stream. For in the streams lie the beaver. That's where my dreams were. Yes, sir. Oh, his furry pelt we sought for in European markets. A mighty good price it bought. Yes. Ooh. What are you looking at up there? That's right, you right up there. You better sit down. That's right. You up on the post. That's right. You're gonna fall off. I don't know. Well, I'll tell you. We trapped and killed a beaver and sold their pelts in town so them European dandies could wear their glossy hats around. Oh, my. Our mountain life was bleak, remote. We were a lonesome crew. Hi. Hi. But once a year we headed to that grand old rendezvous. Woo! I tell you. Oh, we joined that trek up north for our spirits to renew. And a rough and ready wingding called that rendezvous. You ever been to a rendezvous? Oh, you gotta go. It's the best. There'll be a dance and a drink. Grape juice, that is. And went till the fiddler fell exhausted. Whew. And our year-long thirst was quenched. Oh, we cussed and hollered and told tall tales and caroused the whole nights through. Well, you sure knew that's us mountaineers gathered for a wild man's rendezvous. Then back it was over to the vast wide peaks, to the soaring eagles, the solitary creeks, with no one there to greet us, only beaver to pursue. Anybody see this thing right here? I got my big pelt from this one right here, and then he broke it. See, he broke it. It don't work. My. Nothing, tell you, nothing but the memory of that good old rendezvous.
Well, the beaver were trapped out, and the mountaineers needed a new means of support. Not long after the Civil War, some local Indians brought some pretty colored stones to the folks living in Cimarron to trade with them. The source of the stones was soon discovered to be Baldy Mountain, which is the 12,441-foot peak, which projects skyward as Philmont's highest point. Well, folks soon began to climb Baldy Mountain in search of what they thought would be a valuable vein of copper. Instead, they found gold. As you can imagine, news of the gold find spread rapidly. And soon there was a full-fledged gold rush underway in this part of New Mexico. This brought a colorful assortment of characters into the area. Now, not all these folks are miners, and not all of them were men.
Howdy, y'all. My name is Flo. in Cripple Creek. I packed my bags and sold out quick, and I looked around for a place to go and settled on New Mexico. Well, I sat a spell on a wagon train and then busted in on a gust of rain. And as I inquired about the nearest hotel, the reply I got was, there ain't none, gal. We got a church and school and a few saloons, and with big old doors and brass platoons. But up this main street, up or down, there ain't no hotel in this here town. Well, I thought to myself, even in this raw land, there's got to be the law of supply and demand. So I took some money from Mama's will, and I opened up Cimarron's. They discovered gold on Baldy Peak, and the miners came with wealth to seek. I discovered gold as well, and they flocked to stay in my hotel. Well, whew, those were the good old days, just like the gold rush of California is. And you talk about inflation? Why, the price of things rose sky high. A cup of coffee was $5. And if you ain't got it, pal, hard luck. Millions made and millions lost. No one stopped to count the cost. They just used my parlor to make their deals and paid through the roof for rooms and meals. But, like all good times from last to first, the good times stopped and the bubble burst. The miners left, and they packed us up and moved along, and all they left was the windslide song. You gotta have water to cross through a mine. When the water ran out, we had some hard times. Well, I can't complain. I made my pile. So I just reckon I'll sit here a while, and I'll listen to the clock in the front hall tick. It's good to be back in Cripple Creek.
The Colfax County gold rush ended, and dreams of fame and fortune faded away. But an even more exciting and colorful era was in store for this land. For this was the time of the Great Land Grant War, which lasted from the mid-1870s until around the turn of the century. Now, the basic issue to the land grant wars was whether the settlers who had lived on the Maxwell land grant and had raised crops and run cattle had the right to continue to do so. The Maxwell Land Grant Company, a Dutch company, bought the land from Lucian Maxwell, told the settlers they either had to come to the legal terms, or pay up, or give off. The settlers' resistance was bitter, and this brought to life many outlaws, some whose names have still become legendary. Not particularly concerned with the issues at hand, but vitally concerned with keeping the peace, were the lawmen of the era, U.S. Marshals, sheriffs, and their deputies. Now, the lawmen lived a precarious life, for it could end abruptly, terminated by the bullet of a desperado's gun, or from one of the land grant company's own security forces.
Yeah, folks, I'm a lawman. You know what that means? That's one who sticks to the slap of their knees, one who wearing a big black hat, riding boots, it's more than that. The fear that creeps in your gut at dawn stays all day, the sun's long gone. It's that fear of kill. And lawman's profession, highly skilled. But I wasn't always a lawman, no. When I first came to New Mexico, I was a cowboy for a year or two, and I rode cattle on Gulch and Slough. I went on many a cattle drive, sending a few cowfolk alive. Buried them in a shallow grave, with no tear shed for the life they gave. And that gave me something to think about, as I looked around to find a way out. Now, I'd always admired the lawman's trade, and I figured I could make the grade. So I bought me a gun and a badge of 10, found me a town, and they swore me in. Well, the land grant wars were just starting then, and I locked horns with a few bad men. Play Allison and Billy the Kid, and they came to town. Folks ran a kid. Bat Masterson's brother, I forget his name. Blackjack catch him with murder and pain. Well, I carved a few notches on my gun. Life of a lawman ain't no fun. You're staring down the barrel of a loaded gun. Or you're looking in the eye of some maverick kid just 19 and making his bid. And you know you can beat him to the draw. Something about having to tell his mom that her youngin' died in a blaze of spoon just outside some cheap saloon. She got no choice. It's him or you. So you do what you gotta do. Well, the range war's over. I carved the last notch on my piece.
fighting's done. In the end, the land companies won. Order restored, legal claims were laid. So I said so long to the lawman's trade. Because there's too much in the life I made.
After the land grant wars, the history of New Mexico is relatively quiet. Philmont began operation in 1938 and continues to operate through the time, labor, and love of many scouters. Of course, Philmont would not be what it is without the sizable land donations we've received. The most recent of which, received 35 years ago in 1963, came through the generous donation of Mr. Norton Clapp. Mr. Clapp donated the 10,098 acres of the Baldy Mountain mining area that makes Philmont what it is today. But it all started with a donation from Mr. Wade Phillips. In 1922, Wade Phillips bought the ranch that George H. Webster had for sale, and Mr. Phillips set about building the Via Philmonte, now the central part of the Philmont Training Center. When the Boy Scouts received the land, they named it Phil Turn for Mr. Phillips and his good turn. Mr. Phillips made another donation in 1941, which brought the total property to 127,398 acres. He also donated his Phil Tower office building in Tulsa, Oklahoma, to help support the operation. Mr. that more than he and his family enjoy the beauty that is Philmont.
Welcome to Philmont. My name is Wade Phillips. I feel respected you. That's right. Everything you see in front of you, everything you see to the west of you, and to the north of you, I once owned. That's right. See? In my family. I was lucky. I was born into a farming family in the late 1880s in the great state of Iowa. It's a large family, and I attribute all of this to the raising that I've seen. They say that a dreamer born is a hero bred on earth and up in heaven. I believe that. You must believe it, or you wouldn't be here right now. Vision, folks, that's what it's all about. Vision. A vision to make this place a better place. By working with you, by striving, by setting the example. And my family did that for me. And my twin brother. How many of you have been to the Villa Gallery? Have you seen our picture on the wall? I bet you can't tell who's who. Is it me? Wait. Or is it my twin brother? Why? I won't tell. Let you decide for yourself. But when we were 16, we decided to go on a great adventure, for we had a restless spirit. Maybe you, that's why you're here. But we went west from Iowa, and we were gone for 3 long, but in some ways very short years. And we worked our way across the west all the times we had. We'd work a little while, and then we'd travel. And the people we met, well, they were as diverse as you are. Unfortunately, by the time we hit the West Coast, we were both 19. I lost my brother. Days of my life. I had to escort his body back home to Iowa for burial on a train. It was not an easy thing to do. And I kept some of his items in my desk drawer from that day forward. I wonder what we could have accomplished together had he remained. But he didn't. But the vision did. After his burial, my older brothers, you may know them, Frank and L.E. Phillips. Well, maybe you know their products. Phillips 66. I went to work for them, first as their bookkeeper, and then out in the And folks, they 90% inspiration and 90% perspiration.
Well, if that's true, I gave my brothers that 90%. I ate the oil business, I slept the oil business, I drank the oil business. It consumed my every waking moment. But there was still something else about it. What about me? What about my dreams and my goals? And I decided I'd separate. And I started my own company, the Wakefield Oil Company. I must admit, I was lucky, but I also was born. For you see, by the mid-20s, my company was worth $25 million cash. And I sold it. So you see, it was time to move on. That restless spirit came back again. Some of my good friends, you may know of Sinclair, as in Sinclair Oil. The depression caught him, but not me, because I had cold cash. Well, I began to look for some property, and I found it in the state of Colorado. But you know, it just didn't fit my purpose. And I continued to look. And then I came to Cimarron, New Mexico. I studied the history. You've seen some of that this evening. And I decided that this is where my restless spirit needed to be. And I began to buy property. I bought the property right here from George Webster. Bill Spice, the general manager, lives in George Webster's house this very day. And I added to it and I consolidated it until I owned over 300,000 acres. I had the villa built. It's only about 1/3 Tulsa. But you know what? How can one family monopolize all of this? There's got to be a better use for this property. The fishing and the hunting. Come and stay at the villa in the apartments behind. For the Will Rogers, my friend, he's been to fish camp. We've been to the river. Post, the great aviator, he too shot many a deer. Have you ever heard of Vice President William Dawes? Well, it's Calvin Coolidge's vice president. He used to come out. All people loved this area, and so did I. But then, folks, I met a group of boys from Cimarron, and they used to come onto this property. You may have heard of them. They're called the Boy Scouts of America. Now, when I was growing up, I wasn't the Boy Scout. But as I watched them, sometimes they'd even camp on some of my property, and I'd ride my horse back and I'd talk to them. I wouldn't say much about who I was or what I was, but I'd talk around the campfire with them and have a cup of coffee with the leaders. And you know what? Their vision resembled mine. And then it dawned on me. They need a piece of this. Well, I made them an offer. I would give them O'Neill Canyon. Some of you ladies went horseback riding, I hear, this morning. I offered them that. And you know what they said? Thank you, but no. Could you tell them a piece of property like that? Now, I understand that y'all have a slogan nowadays that says, I'll make an offer you can't refuse. Well, I came back 2 years later and made another offer. And I sweetened the deal, and I threw in the villa, and I threw in 120-something other thousand acres in the mountains. And you know what the Boy Scouts did then? You see, you just had to sweeten the pot. But their vision. Now, what about their vision? Well, if you ever go through the house, you start in the gazebo, don't you? You have to know one thing about it. The only things that we keep permanently are those that we give away. I asked for 3 things to be done as conditions for the transfer of ownership. 1, you're a living example. A training center where adults can come and be inspired to learn the program to take it back to the council or your local troop. 2, for the young men that will to come over here to begin their trek. That's right. A trek in God's country. The Sangre de Cristo Mountains. I think they'll have a good time. I think you are having a good time. Oh, I know the weather's been a little bad. But you know, with the right scouting attitude, it's nothing. I also asked that it be kept a working ranch, close to the roots that I grew up with. Horses, cattle, burros, buffalo, the deer, the elk, the fish, the trout. Boys need to see that. Adults still need to see that. My. It's all worked out for the best. It's been 60 years now. You know how many thousands of people have been? You know how many tens of thousands of young men have trekked in the backcountry? I believe it makes a difference in their lives. I know it made a Well, my story's almost through. Nothing worthwhile was ever accomplished without the will to start, the enthusiasm to continue, and regardless of those temporary obstacles, such as that rainstorm last night, the persistence to complete. You're coming out this evening as proof of that. I hope that you enjoy the rest of your time here at Philmont. And I hope that you will dedicate to go back and spread the vision. Right here. Thank you.
In late January of 1964, the 81-year-old Wade Phillips passed away at his home in Los Angeles, California. We who visit these mountains and come to the training center will always be indebted to our benefactor, who throughout his unselfish and highly principled life was a good scout. As you were invited to Philmont, you began to feel the vision of the principles taught here. You had obstacles getting here. You've had obstacles while you were here. Your children have had obstacles on the mountain, and a few of you have had obstacles in having your children on the mountain. But how you've overcome these challenges, pulled through and exercised faith through action, is what makes Philmont an unforgettable experience. As we close this presentation of the New Mexico story, consider the beautiful words of Amulek to the Zoramites in the 34th chapter of Alma, the 38th verse. And now, my beloved brethren, I desire that you should remember these things, that ye humble yourselves even to the dust, and worship God in whatsoever place you may be in spirit and in truth, and that you live in thanksgiving daily for the many mercies and blessings which he doth bestow upon you. Thank you for coming to Philmont. Please remember these things and experiences, and let your own hearts be filled with gratitude for the many mercies and blessings which he doth bestow on each one of us. To have all the cast members and staff members please come to the stage. Would you please rise and remove your hats and join us in singing the Philmont hymn. Coming, and have a good evening. Happy scouting, and I'll be with you when we meet again.